The big question now for President Trump and the country is whether the revelations in that FISA memo are reason enough to end Robert Mueller's Russia investigation. Let's ask former FBI spokesperson John Iannarelli in Minneapolis, and with me here in Washington, David Rifkin, an attorney who served in both the Reagan and Bush 41 administrations. David, I want to start with you. Should this Mueller investigation be ended with what you know now?
I would not say it should be ended, but it certainly is troubling, and if it reveals that there are additional misconduct that led to the Mueller investigation.
Well, this memo says that the FISA warrants were applied for with the essential element in those warrants being the dossier. To the FISA judge, namely that the dossier was an Oppo research document from Trump's opponent.
Which they did not tell the FISA court.
Right, but I'm curious about why you say this is just one, if they find out more. I mean, what else could there, I guess there could be more, but isn't that enough? I mean, if you are essentially lying to a federal judge in the middle of a political campaign 2 weeks before an election, and doesn't that show a motivation that's not exactly pure as a driven snow?
No, but of course, it's very troubling. It should be investigated.
Troubling?
But Mueller himself or his staff are not directly involved in this. I would rather focus on what...
Yeah, but it was started, David, because...
No, I understand the fruit of a poisonous tree. But look, even if there is no Mueller investigation, what happened here is enormously troubling. It's a serious misconduct by the FBI and DOJ. Let's get to the bottom of it. Let's prosecute the people involved. I would rather focus on the merits of a case versus talking about, at this stage, what are its implications.
John, I think the FBI today, if I were a veteran of the FBI, I wouldn't be mad at the Trump people or Nunes. I'd be mad at the leadership of the FBI who allowed the agency to be politicized and, frankly, used in many ways by people who had an agenda against this candidate, Trump, and then after the election, President Trump. I think the FBI agents were used, and the upper echelon on the FBI made huge, huge judgments of error at the very least.
I think there's many people today inside and outside the FBI that feel exactly the same way. First and foremost, there is no reason an investigation of this magnitude should be run out of FBI headquarters. The Washington field office has 1,000 agents, teams of people that do this sort of thing. This is a problem of management to have let the executive leaders allow this to occur. That's one of the things Director Wray needs to address and address immediately.
Well, I still am trying to figure out why Director Wray was saying there's a grave concern about releasing this memo. The memo has nothing classified in it. There are no sources, no methods, no compromised foreign agents' names, none of that. Like, all of that. Why were they putting out, including Wray, why were they putting out these false justifications for keeping that memo secret? That, to me, is very concerning. And I have no reason to not like Christopher Wray. I'm sure he's a wonderful person, but why are you saying it's going to be grave damage? People doing the grave damage to the FBI or the FBI leadership.
Simple answer, because it looks bad for the FBI. It's pure self-protection, which dovetails with the fact that it took over a year to turn this over and required a threat of a contempt.
Explain what you're saying. To slow it down.
It took a year for the congressional committees to get this information out
from the FBI. It's like pulling teeth.
It took a threat of contempt. It's pulling teeth. It's nothing to do with classified information. It has to do with the fact this is a serious misconduct that makes FBI look bad.
What should happen now that...
Serious investigation. But let me just flag one thing.
Yeah.
It's not just what was in this application. The timing is very, very suspicious of the application. 2 weeks before the election, right. Why not do it months earlier? Why not do it after the elections? There's a DOJ policy that's reflected in the 2012 memo by Eric Holder, the Attorney General, which says you don't investigate, absent exceptional circumstances, political campaigns because of a danger it would leak and interfere with the electoral process.
Why did he write that memo? Is that because during the Benghazi stuff? Or was that Benghazi?
Well, let's assume that he wrote it because he believed that this was the right thing to do. But yes, it was during the 2012 elections. You don't do this unless it's absolutely essential. So the real question is not only why did you withhold information from a court, why did you do it on October 21, 2016, 2 weeks before the elections? What was the urgency?
John, what happens to the leadership of the FBI now, given what we learned today in this memo? And We're hearing that there's more to come. This is just the tip of the iceberg as to what we're going to learn, and I can't wait to see what it is. But what should happen, John?
Well, I see it happening already with Director Wray. There's movements being made, somewhat glacially, but changes are happening at headquarters. You saw Mr. McCabe leave just earlier this week, and in his place is now a deputy director that's very highly regarded throughout the rank and file of the FBI. You're also starting to see other movements with executive leaders in the FBI. I think the first thing Director Wray needs to do is make sure they have wiped the slate clean of these people that perhaps had political agendas and are not doing what good FBI agents are charged with doing, remaining apolitical and protecting the Constitution of the United States.
And David, we're almost out of time, but Comey's chief of staff, former chief of staff on TV today, and he said, oh, well, you guys, they could have gone to the FISA judge and told them about the provenance of this dossier, who paid for it, who funded it. There were things that they could have done instead of releasing this memo.
That's not how it works, and it's not enough to go of IG. Those things have to be investigated in the public light. Doing it privately is not how we deal with serious misconduct by the government. That's not what happened with 9/11. That's not, by the way, what the Senate side did with Dianne Feinstein, accusations of CIA torture, et cetera, et cetera. It has to be done in a public eye.
Gentlemen, fantastic segment. And by the way, we're going to examine